Hi, I'm Wendy with Watercolors with Wendy. Crazy, right? So today we're going to do this fun desert scene. No, I've never been to the desert, so if it doesn't look like any desert, I'm sorry about that. This is just kind of what I've done. I'm try to be nice in the comments. We're going to do an atmospheric painting with some techniques that I learned from the atmospheric expansion pack from Sarah Cray. The little alien and ship in the corner are not necessary. I just thought they were funny, so I put them in there. You don't have to. I we're going to be using a palette knife today, so make sure you have one of those. You're going to want your paints in tubes. I've got a wash brush. I've got an oval wash brush covered in tape because that's what's fun. An oval wash brush because that's what I like to do for the sky and some of the other things. I won't be using a regular brush too often. When I do, it will probably be my Princeton 6. Um, so yeah, you also want, and I had one, don't know where I put it. You want a sewing needle or something that you can scratch with. Here we go. I to get all of these fun like spiky things on the cactus, I used a sewing needle. So um this one is a blunt yarn needle, so try not to get something so sharp that it scratches through your paper. We don't want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to set this off to the side. I have already taped this down. I am going to be using the Montval watercolor block. You don't have to tape it down, but I really do like the clean edges on this, so I thought we would just go ahead and tape it down. And then I also like really bright fun washi tape because it makes me happy when I'm painting. For paints, I have a deep green. Um, I have a Daniel Smith Sodalite Genuine. I have Daniel Smith Cerulean Blue and Daniel Smith Quinacridone Gold. I would have had a Daniel Smith Green, but I haven't been able to save up to buy one of those yet. So we're using a cheaper green, but it's okay. It still works out. Okay. I realize it's just kind of this will not be an exact replica of this because this sometimes is what the paint is going to do, and you don't really have a say in that matter. So don't stress out. Let's just have fun with it and let's see what we can do and make sure that everybody is just having a good time with this. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to do some cerulean blue in the background so that we have this bright desert sky. And I lost the lid already. So these clear plates are from Ollie's, which is like a bargain discount store here in Ohio. A pack of 10, and they work great as palettes because they don't change the color of anything. So I like to use them. You can feel free to use whatever you like to use as your palette. Now I'm going to get my oval wash brush. I like it the best. And I'm going to decide we're going to go down. The sky is going to be about 2/3, and then the front. And the sky will be 2/3 so that we can have a little bit more of these fun mountainy things, cliffs, I don't know, whatever they're called. Anyway, let's get back to painting. So you're going to take your wash brush, you're going to dip it in water, knock it off on the side a little bit, and then get some of your cerulean blue. And to do a sky, I start at the top. Ooh, this is a different cerulean blue than I used on the original painting because this is Daniel Smith and the other one was the same brand as the green. So your brands will give you different colors. So if you don't like this, use a blue that makes you happy. Maybe a phthalo, maybe a ultramarine, just whichever one makes you happy. So the skies are always darker than at the top and then they go later. And while I know we're going to cover all of this up, we're still going to paint it all the way down and then paint over it. So you put your paint up at the top and then we're going to just start washing it down. We want it to come down to about there. We want kind of that misty, still sky. We don't want any clouds or anything. So sometimes your paint doesn't go as far as you want it to, so you just put a little bit more up at the top. Dip your brush in and bring it down. I'm going to start pulling it this way because it's not blending the way that I want it to. Not sure. This is the first time I've used this cerulean blue, so I'm not sure why it's being a little goofy. Maybe that's how this paint works, and I shouldn't have tested it or used it for a project without testing it first. But, you know, when you get new paints, you want to try them out right away. So there we have our sky. See, not too hard. We're going to need to let this dry, or we can use the heat gun and make it dry. This is the one time I think I'm going to use the heat gun in this whole project. I might use it some more. I can't guarantee. It's been a while since I've painted this the first time. So I can't guarantee what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. So there we have our background, and it was just the cerulean blue, started at the top, moved down. I still want it a little darker at the top. There we go. Why my paper is being weird today. And here we have something that got stuck. We're going to leave it. If we mess with it now, it's probably going to peel and do weird things, and we don't really want to do that. So we want this to dry before we move on to the next step. So I'm going to hit it with the heat gun. Then I'm going to use my fingernail and kind of pull that out. And it'll just look like a weird little thing in the sky. It's not something to stress out about. So next up, we're going to put in our cliff faces. And that's what this is for. And you can see it still has the paint on it from last time. It also has some purple. So I'm going to get it clean before I use it on this. I don't want random purple mountains. Maybe I do, but not today. And they're really easy to clean. Just dip them in some water and then wipe them off. Watercolor is great for that. You can leave these for months and then come back and clean them, and they're perfectly fine. For people like me who don't like to clean their brushes or their supplies very regularly. So we are going to, and this is the part that's from Let's Make Art by Sarah Cray. If you want watercolor tutorials, highly recommend. She's fantastic. So you're going to take the bottom of your palette knife and you're going to squeeze on some paint. If your paint tube is going to be cooperative. Okay, so that was the Quinacridone Gold. Putting the cap back on so my paint doesn't dry out. If it dries out in a palette, it's fine, but if it dries out in a tube, it's really hard to get out. And then my Sodalite does not want to open. There we go. Okay, so this is Sodalite Genuine. It's the dark color that we used up in here. And I'm going to put that on as well. Just right over top of what I've done. And cap. Trying to remember to put my caps on. Okay, so now all we're going to do is just kind of scratch in mountains. You've got it on this is my left, the left side. And so I'm going to take my right hand and I'm going to scratch down. And I'll put paint on this to make it a little less water to make it a little less opened up like that. Okay, I'm going to take it all the way down to the edge there. And this isn't going to dry super fast. That's popped out a little, so I guess we're going to have another little craggly mountain cliff face that comes out right there. That's fine. Okay, and now I'm going to go over to the other side, and I'm going to start at the top. And I want this side, I don't know, a little lower. Smash it down. It went over the edge. That's okay. I can scrape that back up. And then sit down. And then we'll do another one right about there and down. Now what this does is it gives us this texture before we put the brush down that gives us some more, like, it's really fun. Like it'll make more sense once I put the paint down, or once I put water down. And now I'm going to use a flat wash brush for this, so I have straight lines. I'm going to get the brush wet. I'm going to tap it over here on the towel, and working from left to right, which is what I usually forget, I'm going to start at the top and kind of pull into this color and then pull it down. And where I have really big chunks of it, I'm going to kind of leave that alone so that it looks like hills in the mountain or in the cliff face. So then I'm just going to keep pulling this down to my horizon line. To tap my brush because I feel like I have too much of the Sodalite on it and I want a little bit more changes in the color. Take this straight across, make sure. And then we just kind of work on it like, and you can turn your brush sideways. That's why these are kind of fun. And you can put in little edges to your cliffs. Maybe little shadows in there. I do feel like this one got a little dark, but that's okay. I'm going to clean my brush, tap it on my paper towel, and then I'm going to go over to the other side. Now this one's really dark over here, so I'm going to start here where it's lighter and start pulling that down. Again, to our line, I'm going to go ahead and put in that horizon line. I'm going to pull this one down first. And then these upper cliffs. Tap my brush to get rid of some of that excess paint. Put in some here. It's wet, so it's going to blur, which is great. And we can kind of make a little bit of some steps and some textures, which is fun. Okay, now while this is still wet, I'm going to grab my sewing needle and I'm going to just start scratching in like maybe grass textures. Just in a few spots to give some life to it, and you can pop them up off the edge of your cliffs. And I feel that we went really, really dark with this. Really, really dark this time. So I'm going to get a little bit more of the Quinacridone Gold, and I'm going to see what happens if we try to brighten up this a little. And maybe turn this sideways and kind of scrape off some of that excess. It just feels a little dark for me. It's a little heavy. I mean, we know those mountains, those cliffs are not like black. So I feel like I probably should start over. Then we can use the leftover paint that's on the edges here. Just put in some interest and some lines that make it look like it's a hill. And you can scrape, which is fun. It's just, this is really just supposed to be something fun to do. You're not supposed to stress out. You're just supposed to have fun with this. So now I'm going to take my brush, get it wet, tap it, and I'm going to try to expand this a little gold, give us a little bit more. And when the Sodalite mixes with the Quinacridone Gold, it gets a little green. Here, I tap my brush and I'm pulling up some of the color because I feel like it's just too dark. So with a fairly damp brush, but clean, you can pull some of this out if you feel like you've gotten too dark. And I probably should have been using the flat brush and not the oval brush to make sure that I had the sharp lines that I was going for. Sometimes you just grab what's close and you forget what you're working on. Okay, so see, it's lifting up nicely. I'm using the towel to take the excess paint water off. There we go. We're just pulling up some of that to give us a little bit less dark. I like that better. I've got the mountain cliffs that I'm going for, but they were just too dark. And then we can go back in when this dries and add in a little bit more lines and darkness. And sometimes you just have to paint how you feel. And if something's bugging you, you just got to fix it. Like I will say, I definitely like this side better than this side, but that's okay. It's just what happens. There we go. Now we're adding in some of the interest. We have that gold color at the top, which is really pretty. There we go. I think we fixed it where I was having a little bit of issues because I went a little overboard. Oh no, the Q gold doesn't have a lid on it. I know. I know. Okay, so now I'm going to get some of the deep green. And while this is wet, we're just going to put in some scrub brush or tumbleweeds back in the background. You can mix this with a little bit of the gold. You can mix it with a little bit of the green or the blue. It's whatever you'd like. Don't leave your brushes face down in the water. Sorry. I know I'm not supposed to, but God, it's so much easier. All right, so I'm just getting some of the deep green on my brush and I'm just scrubbing in like bush shapes. It's nothing super exciting. It's nothing crazy. It's just bushes. Just a little bit of interest on the edges of our painting here. So it's not super wet over here, so it's not going to bleed out as much. But it gives us a little bit of green. And then in my original, I had put a tiny, we're going to call it a saguaro cactus. Pretty sure that's the right one. They're the football arms, like the touchdown cactuses. But when they're way in the background, they're much, much smaller than they get in the foreground. So I'm just going to do a tiny little cactus right here on the edge of this cliff. And let's just give it one arm. The very excited cactus is just way out there. And then we'll do more. I'm going to make that one a little thicker. We'll do more as we add to the rest of this. But for now, I think that's pretty good. Okay, so now we're going to get our palette knife and we're going to put some gold on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to do this top half of the landscape or of the desert. So just from here up, the bottom part will get done in a second, but this part we want a little darker and we want it a little bit fuller. And then we get more deserty as we move out. So we get a little bit more Q gold, because I can't say the other word very well. There's a little bit of the Sodalite still on here, and I think I'm going to put this down, and then maybe I'll add a little Sodalite, but as we overdid it up in the top, I don't want to overdo it down here on the bottom. I'm going to go in and at a diagonal, like just do some diagonal spots. And this is kind of like little rocks and stuff that are just kind of chilling. I'm kind of tapping and moving it around. Taking some of the paint from here and just adding it to other spots because there's some on there. And don't go too heavy right here because we're going to put in a big cactus. But we may switch sides on that. It's going to depend on how everything is turning out. And we'll look for the spot where we think it needs it. There's still some on here. So I'm going to just leave it. It'll still be wet by the time I get to this next part. So I'm just going to leave that on the back of my palette knife. And I'm getting not my oval wash brush, my flat wash brush. And I'm going to make sure it's clean, which I always do on the hand, and get some water. The water doesn't have to be clean, but the brush shouldn't really have a bunch of colors in it. And I'm going to start taking it across, but up to here. So I realized that didn't make any sense. Let's start over here. I'm going to take the brush, it's wet, and I'm going to just start pulling it up a little. And I used way less black this time. So this is very, very deserty gold. And I don't want the ground to be really flat right here. So I'm just kind of moving it around. Finish that horizon line. And then we're just kind of pulling that paint around. Letting it do what it wants to do as we just kind of push it around. Let's kind of I've got more water on the brush and I'm just kind of toning it down a little. It's really dark. That's okay. okay with a lot of things with this. If you stress out, it's just going to make you upset. So just don't. It's a great method. We can always come back with more of the Q Gold anyway. So let's try to just use up the rest that's on the palette knife for more of our foreground. This is our middle ground. This is our background. And let's just do a little bit more our foreground. And now I'm kind of pushing and scraping it a little to give it a little bit more. So it's going to give me more of like the tumbleweeds. There we go. And again, the brush, clean enough. Let's again take the color up instead of down. And what I'm doing is I'm just kind of tapping it and around to get like ground textures up above. And sometimes I'm going to clean the brush, tap it. And I really like over here where I have all of that like dotted paint. That's fantastic. Okay, now we're going to take it all the way down to the bottom, very lightly. Don't want to lose a lot of what we've done. And I'm just using a wet brush. I'm going to tone down this kind of mountain area a little bit. Mountain. Foreground area a little bit. Sometimes I just don't know what I'm saying. All right, I'm going to get a teeny tiny bit of the Sodalite Genuine on. I'm going to put it on the palette knife. So to get just a teeny tiny bit, I'm squeezing it and then I'm smearing it. And that's probably more than I need. I just want a little bit because I want to add some dark to this and because it's looking way too light for me. And the paint is wet, so this could go several ways. We'll see what happens. Gonna just kind of add in some darker spots. And I'm just kind of letting the knife do what it wants. It's giving me the darks I'm wanting. And kind of textury, a little bit better texture than what I'd done before. It was too monochrome and not dark enough. A little bit more right in there. So we'll just do that. Okay. Now I'm going to take this sewing needle and I'm just going to start scratching in grasses, like long tumbleweed grassy grasses in just various spots. Usually if there's a big spot of paint, you can kind of scrape it up a little bit. It's fun. Nothing else, this one's fun. There are other tools you can use. You don't have to use a sewing needle, but a sewing needle is what I have. And I have a sharper needle. I can use different sides of the needle. You can use the edge of the palette knife. Just want little grassy textures. And you want them to be random. Like you don't want all your grass to look exactly the same because that's not how it's going to look. Okay. So I'm going to get my flat. No, let's use my 6. Let's use my wet 6. Get my 6, dab it, and let's just kind of touch these and pull them down a little in some of these spots. And we're just giving ground. You're just giving like a texture to the ground, maybe some hills, just maybe some tumbleweeds. Again, you just keep cleaning your brush and then going back over. I mean, it's not really hills, more like vegetation. And try not to get rid of all of the stuff that you put down because it's gorgeous and it's fun. And you don't need to go overboard with this part, but I just wanted to tone it down a little. I thought it was a little much. I thought my color was too bright, and the Sodalite is helping green this down and darken it up a little, which I think is a little bit more fun. Okay, so now let's take some Q Gold and the green. I will say this is probably a bit too saturated of a color. I probably should have toned it down. But we're going to mix the Q Gold with the green and maybe with some of the Cerulean to just kind of get all the colors similar. A little bit more green. All right. And there's going to be a big cactus in one spot. And I like the way this mountainside looks. So, mountain, I keep calling them mountains. I think they're cliffs or mesas. They're probably mesas. So, I like how this one looks, and I don't really want to mess with over here. So, I think we're going to put our big one right here. And you can draw this first if you want, but it's around. And you're going to have to do multiple layers because the background's really dark. We'll get this cactus in. And I'm going to have it coming out of this spot right here that looks like it's like the base of the cactus. And you want this paint to be pretty thick. Don't water it down too much because you need the thicker consistency to cover the background. A little bit more green. Okay. And now he needs to have his arms. So when I was looking at the reference photos, most of them seem like the arms came out from the bottom. So that's what we're going to do. The arm comes out from the bottom. And then on the other side, the arm also comes out from the bottom. But this one's going to be a little taller. Okay, now I'm going to take straight green. I've put the dark color down and I want to green it up because it's too dark for me and it's not shouting cactus. It's shouting, I don't know. I'm putting it on one side. And then we have the shadows already built in, which is perfect. Clean up this edge here. And you could have matted or masked down where we're going to put the cactus so it would be white when you got to this part, but you don't have to. Okay, but while this is still wet, we want to take our sewing needle and give it cactus spikes. So you want to kind of just, and they're going to go in every direction. So he has some in the front, some on the sides that stick out. And they're different sizes. Push harder, push lighter. You'll get what you're going for. It's just a fun way to mess with things. Ooh, he's so cute. A cute little cactus. Yeah, I realize. Most people don't think they're cute, but I do. He's such a spiny little cactus. Sorry, that part's really, really fun to do. Um, so now I'm going to take my smaller brush, and I think we need some cactuses that are back in the background a little bit. I mean, he's our main guy and he's the big show, but we need a little bit more cactus. So I'm going to get some more Q Gold because it really did not last very long on this palette. And I'm mixing it with, I'm going to get some water for this, mixing it with the deep green that was there. And now we need to figure out where we want to put more cactuses. And the further back they go, the smaller they get. So we don't want super big ones. This is our big one. He's our main focus. So here's a little spot that we could have had a cactus come out of. And we will just put him right there. And one of the ways to show depth in a painting is to make things smaller as they go back or to overlap, things like that. So let's just give a cactus here, make it a little bigger at the base. And I'm gonna have one arm that goes this way. And then it's gonna have another one that comes up a little higher, that comes out in a little different spot because it's a cactus and you can make it look however you want. Your cactus. Ooh, he's cute. I like that one. So currently there are 3. 1, 2, 3. You want to, usually in art, you like odd numbers. So I think we're going to do 2 more. I'm going to make this one bigger so that I can make the rest of them smaller. There he goes. And I'm working quickly so I can get in here and scratch at him. I'm putting a paintbrush in my mouth for some reason. So that makes it real easy for you to hear what I'm saying. This is a yarn needle. This one's an embroidery needle, and it's going to give me smaller scratches. And he's further away, so he's not going to be as detailed as this one up front. Okay, so let's get a little bit more of the paint. You also can fade them out as they get further back. That's another way to show depth. I feel like we need 2 right here. I don't know why I wiped my paint on my cup, because I'm just not thinking. So let's do one here and one here. And I want to make sure they have the arms because otherwise I'm afraid they look like penises. So, which not what I'm going for. If it's what you want, that's fine. This one will have a little arm, and we probably won't make it spiky. And we'll have a little arm that comes up a little higher. And then one that's come down here. And then I've decided this one is way too bright. So I'm just taking some paint and toning it down a little bit. And we don't have the dirt or the tumbleweeds that we were working on earlier. So we're just going to tap that in. I'm getting the 6 and just toning down some of the stuff that I had just done. Another fun thing to do with these is I call this my scratchy gross brush. This is from an acrylic class. So I'm going to get it wet and then I'm going to dry it on paper towel. And I'm going to see if I can reactivate some of these paints that are dry and give me some scratchy textures. Okay, he's too wet. And I'm just kind of digging him in there. I don't like scrubbing out some things and moving things around. I think I waited too long and the paint's a little too dry. This really is it. There's not a whole lot to that. We can add a little bit more of the dark up here on this side. I can put a little bit more of the Sodalite on my palette knife and just kind of scratch in some more mesas. We're going to call this like the finishing parts of the painting. We're not going to go too crazy here. I'm taking it and I'm just kind of scraping and pulling to give like really dark spots. I'm trying not to put too much of the paint in one spot, but I'm just letting it decide where it wants to be. Okay, so that put a lot down. Now I can use this to kind of scrape it around. I think that adds quite a bit. I want this to come all the way down to the edge though, so let's scrape her. Maybe a little bit more over here. So if there's more things that you want to add, I think I want to do another layer of green over this cactus to make it a little bit brighter and then scratch in again. It'll be totally cool. I promise. It's going to be fun. So I'm going to use just the straight green this time. He's got enough of the undercoat. I know this is very similar to painting acrylics with all of the layering that I'm doing. It's okay. But this should fill in. It's still watercolor, so it's still transparent. It's just a little darker. I'm gonna get a little bit water, tap it, more paint. And we're just really wanting this main cactus to pop. But since it's watercolor, you can see all of those previous spikes that we put in there are still there, which is really fun. And a lot of the shading that we previously did is going to stay while we add more color and just really kind of brighten it up. I want to pop it out a little. I felt like it was getting lost. And then again, while it's wet, let's scratch in some more. And then you'll get the double layers of colors too. So this might scratch down to just the previous layer with the lighter green or the more olivey green. And I'm doing this with no rhyme or reason. I'm just scratching. Which usually works better than trying to make everything perfect because we like imperfections. Our eyes do. And if it's too perfect, it won't look right. There we go. That's better. He stands out a little bit more. And you've got your other your 3 cactuses here, your 1 there. Now you can put your little alien up on either one of the cliffs if you would like. I used a black pen for that. I tried doing it with a brush and it didn't work. So your spaceship is a line with a little bit of an oval. And he's going off the side of the painting, so it's okay. And then we have like the dome that is also going off the side of the painting. And he's in his shadow because he's so far back. Now he's going out of the painting. So the legs, the center of it is about there at the top of the thing. So the legs should come out from there. And you can have just your spaceship, or you can have a tall, skinny alien too. So everybody, aliens always look different. No one knows what they really look like because we've never seen them. But I like to give them really big heads, really long legs, and then really long arms. Okay, though, so we're gonna make another one because that looks like a penis. So he's doing touchdown arms up in here too. So we'll just thicken that up with the lines. Again, this is totally optional and not something that you have to do. And you can do them in green, you can do them with a paintbrush, you can do them however you want. But there we go. This is our little desert landscape. You can see it's different every time you do it. I know that I made one of these once and I put a red hat on it as a Christmas card. So I put like a Santa hat on it. So shoot me, like tag me, Drunken Aunt Wendy, if you tag me, and I will come see what you did with this tutorial. I'm taking the tape off right now. I realize I just turned it so you couldn't see anything. So let's take off the tape. It's always like the best part. You get these clean lines. Sometimes they're not perfectly clean, but that's okay. They're better than no lines. We have our little monolith alien back there. It's fun. It's silly. And that's what this is supposed to be, is something fun and silly that just makes you happy to do. So there you go. Don't forget to sign it. I really should get a trash can for my desk for all my tape. And I named it Roswell because I thought it was funny. I have a clean palette knife for the separation. So this was a 9x6. The separation point is in the center. And we slide that off. Okay. Set that off to the side. Oi. So there we go. It's fun to paint because you never know how things are going to turn out. And it's always different when you are talking versus when you're just doing it on your own. And so I do apologize that it's not exactly the same, but it makes me happy. And so I hope it made you happy. And if you're doing this like in a sketchbook or something, look to see the things that you like. So like right here is really, really awesome. All of the texture. It really does look like stone and mesas. And I love my cactus. And there's some things that aren't perfect, but that's okay because it was fun to do. I do think I like the Walmart brand Cerulean Blue better than the Daniel Smith Cerulean Blue. Feel like it was a little too granulating and it didn't give me a very flat wash, which is what I was going for. But next time, I will remember to test it ahead of time. I hope you guys enjoy this painting. I'm I have not figured out what I am doing for next month yet. There will be a video that tells you what the paintings will be for next month. So we'll see you next time. Bye.